Hey everyone, so this is going to be the second part to that head drawing video I did. Now we're going to start by, well actually we're not going to start by blocking anything. I'm actually going to sharpen this charcoal pencil, and just to show you how to do that real quick, get my knife out. You can use any kind of sharp knife. We're going to start by actually carving the wood. Let me see if this focuses in for us here. Oh, where is my camera? Is it going to focus? It's probably not going to focus, but you guys can kind of get the idea. So you just carve away. I'm putting my right, well, if you're right-handed, my thumb holding the knife at the base there, at the non-sharp part of the knife, and I'm pushing my thumb that's holding the pencil. So I'm not actually doing anything with my knife hand. It's actually just being stable. So pushing, 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 and just slowly shaving away at the wood that is holding the charcoal. And then once that's shaved away enough, probably about like a centimeter or so, for me anyway, you can do different parts, but sometimes if you do it too long, you usually break the charcoal. Well, I do anyway. So now that we've gotten that part done with, we need to sharpen the actual charcoal bit. So I'm just going to get your sandpaper and scrape around all the sides till you get nice smooth sides on each bit. There we go, I got a nice point, and I can also use the side of this charcoal pencil if I want to. So, put my knife away. Oh, don't get some charcoal on the paper, I suppose. And let's figure out how we're doing this. Okay, so we have all of our foundation down. That is great. So much to work with. I don't have to worry about proportion too much anymore. Now we just need to separate what is light and what is dark. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to look at our subject. And by looking at our subject, we need to kind of separate it into values in our head. Now, what I mean by values is that everything in life, or the way light reacts to the world around us, we break it down into values, because, like saying there's dark and there's light. So like if there's we artists also use it in a scale format to explain it, is 0 to 10. So 0 is white light and 10 is completely black, and there's a whole range of values in between that. Now what we want to do when separating light and dark is make sure our darks are darks and the lights are lights. And that sounds silly, but that just means that we don't want, if we say this is our dark area, we don't want any of our light grouping values into there, because then that will throw off the whole idea of the subject that we're drawing or painting. So let's first of all start off. I will do my best to just try and figure out where is dark and where is light. Already I'm going to just group the hair right now into just a block of darkness. And I need to figure out where on the face it is hitting. So for that, I can think about where the light is actually hitting the face. And it seems to be coming from, I'm going to be talking like the actual area I'm looking at his face. So I'll say the right side, but it's actually his left side, but it's the right side I'm looking at, okay? So on the right side of the face seems to be the lighter area, so that means the light is coming from there. And it's probably coming from the top right, like above him a bit, because there's a shadow casting underneath his chin and underneath his eyebrow, showing that it's coming from above somewhere, right? And that information we can start to play around. That means everything on the left side of the nose is going to be in darkness, well, it seems to be anyway. And we can see where the forehead starts to turn. We can mark that out and say, hey, that side's also in darkness. I know there's a little bit of what we call reflective light on dark side, but that reflected light, like you can see it there, and it nearly looks white in our eyes is still a lot darker than our light side, and we need to keep that idea in mind, that that reflected light is still darker than anything that we're going to group on our light side. So let's continue grouping our darks. We can see under the bridge of the nose, or the key of the nose, seems to be all dark, so we're going to do that here. I think I did a little bit, must have done a little bit on the last video. So I'm just marking this out for me, knowing that this area later on when I go to shade is in darkness. And then there's a bit also underneath the eyelid there. We're also using the shadows to understand where the form is. We can't really see the form or anything really without a bit of light and shadow. And even though that the white of the eye is our idea of white, it's not the whitest thing on the image. The highlight of the eye is probably the brightest thing there. And really, if I was painting this, I would put that white of the eye as a grey, and it looks like greenish or bluish from my monitor anyway. But I think for now I might group that. If I group that on the dark side or light side, you know, the way the light is hitting the eyeball, I'm going to choose that the inside of the eye, that's going to be in darkness, but this side's going to be in light. That looks like a nice grouping to me. And then we'll also have just underneath the eyelid is also in darkness. So that is that grouping. Anything else around here? No, this can all be in light. Where are we looking? That cheek we missed earlier, we'll throw that in as getting into the dark values. Again, this separation I'm doing, these lines I'm doing, are just for me to figure out where everything is later. Just a bit of the nostril is in the dark value. A bit of the tip of the nose is also, yeah, there's a plane shift here. All around this area of the nose is a plane shift into darkness. And by plane shift I mean that it's starting to, like, one side's hitting the light, the other side's turning away from the light. So that's a plane shift. I know there's a highlight on the nose there, but I'm going to leave that. Maybe that could be reflected light later, but it doesn't sit well, I think, with our drawing. It looks okay in a photograph, but in our drawing we want everything to be concise and everything really to be coming from one light side, one side. Just, it's a bit clearer for us. So photography, when working from photographs, just try to choose your own design and make your own decisions. You're translating the image, you're not copying it completely. So where else are we now? Now his beard is very dark, obviously, but it still has a light and a dark side, and maybe I'll draw on the lips just for myself to know where they start and end. And we'll draw on where his beard and his moustache all connect. We'll just do an outline for now, but we actually are going to separate these into lights and darks as well, because they still have form. There we go. Now we'll do it underneath there. And that's all the beard. But you can still see here that this dark side of this side of the moustache is in darkness more than the other side. A little bit of light hitting there. All this is in darkness. The underneath of the jawline is more in darkness than above. We just need to get that in. And then how are we looking at in the underneath of the lip? The bottom of that is in darkness, but the top of that is getting a bit of light. Maybe it fades into darkness somewhere there. This can all be in light for me later. Just making notes for myself when I go to shade to make sure I have everything correct. I don't need to think as much when I go into it, because once you start the shade, you know, everything starts to change and you're drawing a lot more. Just get in those big shapes to the neck. I can see a lot of reflected light going on, so it can be a bit confusing. Have I got the major things down? I notice I haven't touched the side at all, by the way, because I'm just going to put that all in darkness, and then we can figure out the forms later in there. I think for the most part we're pretty done. I like the way I drew that ear earlier. I might bring that down just a little bit. There we go. Just get a little bit more in. Where are we now? That's fine. That's fine. A little bit of darkness underneath that ear. Mark that out for myself later. And everything else around here can be in light. Okay, now we need to approach. Now we have where we want to put all of our shadows. So let's place them down. Now, when thinking about your shadows, you need to do it in a nice, clean fashion. If I do, where can I draw on this? Just here. If I do like, it doesn't really read well in the shadows. It's all over the place. I have different values, all different shapes, different marks everywhere. I kind of want to be a bit cleaner about it. Now that means it doesn't. When I say cleaner marks, just consistent around the form. They don't all have to be the exact same direction. So like I could do this. It's still a clean grouping of shading. It's all the same except for maybe up here, but you get what I'm saying here. It's all the same value there. But I can turn that value. As long as I keep the value the same, the mark making can be changing. It's very A-okay. But if I do that, it throws everything off and it doesn't look that great. Not describing anything. So let's get into it. Now the side of the face here, let's just start marking in everything. You'll lose a little bit of what you put down already, but that's okay. You've found it once and you can find it again. Don't ever think you're not good enough to draw what you've drawn before. The only thing you can really do is improve. So we're slowly marking in everything. Again, notice I'm not with the charcoal pencil. I'm actually not putting a lot of pressure down. Because the page is white. I actually don't need to put a lot of darkness down to get that separation. Going over and making it a bit cleaner. And I think I've went outside of the form I did earlier. Left a line in that I got confused about. Fix that, no problem with an eraser. Draw that back in. And we're back on top. Right, let's get going again. Again, very consistent lines through. You know, if I remember what I put down earlier and what they mean, I don't really even need to look at my subject too much. It's nearly just like colouring in. And this area has gone a bit messy, but let's fix that later. I'll just continue with what I'm doing. A little bit under here. Look at my subject if I'm a little lost. Yeah, let's put it like that. And then you got more on the underneath of the jaw. Applying the same pressure throughout with my charcoal pencil. Where are we missing anything? Maybe a bit here. Bit here. Getting my eraser just to clean up the mistake I made earlier. And then we'll just get the neck in a bit. I think I misdrew that. I made a mistake anyway. And let's finish this up. And we'll get in the hair. Though maybe I should put the pupil in as well. I don't usually like drawing it in this early, but we'll pop it in for now. And you know what? I actually might make that. Yeah, I'll make the whole left side of the eye dark. I'll have a softer edge later, which I'll explain. Let's continue to scratch in the rest. And even with the hair, you can go with the direction of the form. I know, especially with this curly hair, there's lots of ways that it's moving, but try to think of the overall movement. I'm not drawing every single strand of hair that I see. That would just take too long and be a bit inefficient. There we go. I might clean up some of this. I'm leaving a lot of white of the page. And you know, as you go over your charcoal marks, it'll also shade the underneath grains. You'll kind of start pushing that into the paper, so just be aware of that. Whether you want that or not. Just gonna go over my shading just to make sure it's a bit cleaner. The more time I take in this now, the easier it will be later when I start to refine all these. Okay, I don't think we missed anything. Get this. Yeah. I think we're okay to go. And let's see if I can open this putty thing so I can get into it. Oh. Can I open it without breaking it? Is the next thing. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Oh, this is like 2 in 1. Did I do this? Maybe. Okay. So getting that putty eraser. I'm just going to clean up my light side just a bit. Get rid of these foundation lines. You can keep some of them, but a lot of them are a bit distracting sometimes. And it'll help me later when I go into soft and hard edges. Just what to think about. And it depends how much of a finish you want on your drawing as well. If you're going to kind of for a quick sketch, which I suppose I kind of am, it is nice to leave a lot of these around. Just the idea of how you got there. With drawing, you're kind of telling the story with your marks. People are, you know, like it's interesting to see the decisions that people made. That is what painting and drawing is about. What marks you made to translate the thing that you're saying, you know? Okay. Before I lose my page, let's continue. Now I've got a light and a dark side. It already feels a little bit more sculptural, a little bit more like a finished piece. Let me clean this up a little bit. You know, I'm going a bit too crazy. This is just a tutorial. I don't need to make it absolutely beautiful. Well, you know what I mean. Right. So, now that we've got dark and a light side, the thing we need to start thinking about is edges. So right now we're only dealing with 2 edges. Well, I suppose actually maybe 1 edge. We have like the exact same edge all around the drawing. An edge just means the transition between light and dark. I can make this edge softer, and now we have a few values between to get to that dark. There's a few more steps to get from that white to that darkness there, okay? So a slower transition is what we call a softer edge, and a fast transition, so again, just to start off, that's what we call a hard edge. And there's loads of variations of these edges, because there's 10, well, we break it down into 10 values. There's actually there's a lot more, but just so we can, as humans, understand it, we work with 10 values. But you could have, just to say, like a 4 value next to a 3 value, but that 4 value and 3 value only looks softer compared to a 7 and a 2 being next to each other, kind of thing. The way to think about it, well, I'll go on and explain it. So when we think about hard edges, we want to think about the things that turn quickly. So let us say the bridge of this nose has a quick turn into that darkness just from where we're viewing it. So we might make that just a bit of a harder turn. Now suddenly that's a hard edge. Again, I'll make this a bit darker. And we'll do it for the nostril as well. Again, I'm just marking this out for myself. That turns quickly into that nostril. So it's now a hard edge and it looks darker. Like this darkness looks quite hard next to this light here, right? Let's do the rest as well. We have a hard edge at this eyelid. Do you have any hard edges anywhere else? Some bits in the hair, but not all. Like this is harder than this because the hair here is actually casting a shadow, which makes the transition a bit softer. We'll do one here as well. Maybe one just underneath the bit of the ear. Underneath the ear here as well. You got a hard edge. And we're gonna make this these hard edges have different hardness and softness around, but this is just for me to mark it out. Might have one just should I have one here? No. No, I think that's all my hard edges I can work with. So let's try, what do we do next here? What I can do is actually to draw in my forms in my darkness to see where I am a bit. Because I lost them when I started to draw again. Let's just not get confused later on by having them completely lost. And I know I said that, just to also further explain it, I put down this mark, like the darkness of this mark in here, but this mark here is already softer because it's surrounded by darkness than this quick turn here. And this is only one way to actually approach this. Like if I just made this whole thing dark, that's still a hard edge compared to this. This is now a soft edge, this is a hard edge sort of thing. And there's variations throughout it all. Oh, I completely just got lost in what I was doing. So, what I'm doing here is actually just going back into the shading and making some areas darker than they needed to be. I went maybe a bit light, and also just start bringing in some variation into the light. So now I have 2 values to work with in the light and 2 values to work with in the darkness. Maybe even 3 because we put down one here, right? So we'll just continue with that for a bit. See, just to try feel it out wherever we can. When thinking about form, we've got, so if the light's hitting down from here, there's highlights, or planes of the lights that are actually hitting the form more than the other lights. So we'll say this bit of the bridge of the nose is going to be lighter than this bit and this bit, just from where the light is clearly facing it. Same, there's a little bit more light here, there's a little bit more light around these areas and this area, and then maybe slightly more here as well. The brightest I'd say is that corner of the bridge and that a bit of the eyeball there, the highlight. So we need to start thinking about where we can put them in, and the same with the darks. This bit here is really getting no light. This area here is getting a lot of reflective light from whatever the light is bouncing off away from it and getting back to it. And then same here. Where are we here? Yeah, we just need to make these transitions a bit softer, basically everywhere else. After we mark down for ourselves that these are hard edges later, okay? Underneath of the lips actually has a bit more dark. It's a bit more in the dark area than I thought it was earlier. I think I might have went too dark with placing in where my hard edges are, so I'm going to have to make everything else a bit darker. And that's okay. Drawing is just a drawing, it's very easy to fix. Never get caught up in the whole, oh no, I have to do so much more work. It's fine. Do it. Doesn't take too long. Thinking about it will take long. Right, where are we now? I think now we got to put a bit of variation into our lights again to get separation of where our lightest lights are. So I'm going to start doing that. Very, 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 very light touches on my charcoal. Or what I could actually do is, if I wanted to speed this up, I can go into the eraser layer. So I can start putting marks throughout the lights. Kind of like I did with the darkness there. Following the form of the face a bit. But very, very loose, as you can see. You can be as delicate as you want with this. This is just, I suppose I kind of like putting a bit of something. Bit of aggression into it. Now a bit of movement into it. Maybe I'm just not delicate. That's what I'm trying to say. I think these long strokes kind of create a bit of movement. Right, now we've drawn all over our drawing. And that's totally a-okay. It looks messy. Well, you know what? It doesn't actually look that messy. But now we can kind of come in and get those differences in the light, you know? We still have a clear separation of this is dark and this is light. Or, this is light, this is dark. Yeah. So let us figure out where our lightest lights are. That one's hit the corner of the forehead, hitting the light a bit more. Bit of the underneath the eye. Bit of that cheekbone is reaching it. And that bridge of the nose definitely has a lot more than everything else. Drawing with my eraser here. Some on the earlobe. Doing kind of generous big marks. Some in that corner of the eye there. And then a little bit maybe on that mouth. Yeah, that looks okay. Yeah, I think we're okay. Maybe we can, if you want to make that Bridget nose light a bit stronger. We can't make it any lighter, but we can make everything else around it a bit darker. So let's try that. But I still don't want it as dark as everything else in here. And if it gets to that point, I either need to lighten this or I need to darken this. Actually, even in the image, these values are actually very close together. So I kind of like that as a lost edge. But there's also lost edges, which is just a very, very, very soft edge, basically. Like, it's imperceivable how close these values are. Imperceivable? Imperceptible? Imperceptible, I think. Let me see if I'm okay with the rest. I think my measurements are a little bit off here, but again, I wasn't going for likeness too much. I just wanted to do a drawing exercise, and that's kind of some things you have to remind yourself of sometimes. You know, you can get hung up during your exercises about making it perfect. Same with, like, you know, your sketchbook and whatnot. Oh, it has to be a beautiful sketchbook. Because, like, you know, you look at other people's sketchbooks and you're like, holy shit, every single drawing is amazing. But don't do that to yourself. The only way to get there is to actually just let yourself draw and enjoy it. Again, building a bit of form on the hair. Just thinking about, even though the hair is dark, where there's still areas where it's lighter than other areas. So we're going to build that up with big broad strokes. Not going to go in with every single curl that we can see. And form will slowly come to be. And if we want to later, we can design those curls on the outside, and that will kind of give those a bit more life too. Alright, now let's go in with this eye a bit. I don't want to go too detailed with the eye for now. This isn't going to be a complete drawing or anything, but we'll give an idea of it. Again, just going darker where I think it needs to go darker. Maybe I can start just putting everything in, and then if I don't like the way the edges feel, I can change some stuff up later. How was this? This isn't that bad, but I think we've lost his mustache a bit. Maybe we'll go with the direction of the mustache when we put it in. Yeah, that's good. I think we need to go a bit darker underneath the chin as well. Trying to go with the direction of his face. Where are we now? Try putting some more lines to make it feel a bit better. Now I've kept this quite loose so far, but if you wanted to, you know, you can really get in with a drawing like this. You've got all of your values down, all your placement down, and if you know, if you're the kind of person to really carve away at it and make it lifelike, you've got so much of the work done. You know, you can start really just, I want to do this eye the way I see this eye. You're good to go. And what, we've done this in about 40 minutes of work? No, maybe a little bit over 40 minutes. That's with me explaining it, you know. To get a lot down, you don't need to do a lot. Keep it simple the whole way. Let's start designing some of these curls. I'm just going to start putting some lines down, wavy stuff down to get a bit of movement into them. We made his hair curly without even drawing a single curl, you know? Well, you know, individually drawing any curl. Now, what do we need to do here? Let's just throw in the rest of that eye, maybe. Let's get his white of the eye down there, because that's all soft edges for me anyway. Don't need to draw in every single thing I see. And I don't know if I'm an eraser small enough to get this highlight in, but we'll give it a go with the putty eraser. I think that's gonna be the best I get. Maybe I'll come in with the pencil again. Yeah, that works for me. But I think I made that too dark, so maybe we'll make this a bit darker to balance it out. Yeah, okay, that feels okay. Now, I'm okay with the end of this drawing. We've got a pretty a-okay finish to it. Like, we've got a head down. Might not be exactly what the person I've drawn, but to actually get there, it's just general fixes. Like, I just need to maybe make this side of the face come in a little bit more. Might need to... Ooh, there we go. Maybe I'll do a broad stroke, then come in with the pencil again. Yeah, that's better. Maybe made him look a bit younger, I think. Maybe it's just because I kind of got rid of all of his wrinkles. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, I'm always getting lost in the drawing. Right, so with these simple methods of just going, I've lost myself completely. From the first video where we found our foundation, and now this video where we just separate our lights and darks. We just keep following that. Where's our light? Where's my dark? Where's my light? Where's my dark? We got a head drawing, you know? I never thought about, oh, this is a chin. I never thought about, oh, how does the mouth turn? What's the mouth look like underneath? What muscles are going on? I just looked at what's light and dark and tried to pop it in. At the end of the day, I had a head drawing. That's all this practice really is. There's absolutely so many ways to go about drawing the head. Like, if you are the person to, like, there is a way of going about just, you know, starting off in the eye and building around there. But I'm not that kind of guy. You know, I just like this as a practice. And I don't like, you know, it's better than using all those grids and all those kind of things you see people use. This really just starts, I think this really improves the way you draw. Really improves the way your eye sees things, you know? Yeah, anyway. Thanks for coming around, guys. And I'll see you in the next video.